everyone, my name is Emma, and I am one of the directors of curriculum here at the Formula Project. So, without further ado, the Formula Project will present how to code your own website with HTML and CSS. We'll dive a little bit deeper into what those words mean, but HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, while CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. But we'll take a little deeper dive into what those really mean and what they can do when creating websites. All right, we'll start off with our table of contents. So this is an overview of what we will be seeing today. So first, we're going to see metadata in HTML. So we'll dive into what metadata means. Then we have headings and paragraphs. And so here you'll have the chance to actually code your own headers and your own paragraphs with what you learned with HTML. Then we're going to move on to lists, and we're going to see how we can create our own lists with HTML. And so we can list off different things like notes or different hobbies or your different interests. And then for section 4, we'll dive into images and links. And so you guys will have the chance to add your own images as well as your own links to your websites to have a little bit of an interactive feature. And then on 5, we will explore colors in CSS. And from there, you'll have the chance to customize your own website based on how you would see fit. And then after that, finally, on number 6, we're going to explore some careers in web development. So you guys will have the chance to learn about what potential paths you can pursue within computer science and UI, UX, and web development, and if these topics interest you today. But we'll move on to what is coding. So this will be a general overview of what coding is. So I want you guys to take a minute to think about what comes to your mind when you think of the word coding. I'll give you guys a minute to think. You guys can talk and work amongst yourselves. So now that we have an idea of what coding could be, here is a more defined definition of what it is. So coding is writing instructions that a computer can understand and follow. And so coding is basically kind of like the language that you communicate with the computer. And so with code, you write instructions for your computer, and then the computer follows it. And so it understands the language that you are giving it when you're coding. And so basically when you're coding, you're speaking computer language in a sense. And so you're working to build something through these languages. And you can also think of it like a recipe. And so think about giving it, you can think of coding as giving step-by-step instructions to your computer. And so when you give somebody step-by-step instructions, you can make something happen. And so you could think of something like that. You could think of that as code. And so when you give code to a computer and when you're coding, it's like giving a recipe to the computer. And so each line of code is a step-by-step direction, and then the computer does something with it and it makes it happen and makes something happen since you're essentially speaking computer language. But yeah, that's a little bit about what coding is. And this is also an example, a visual example. So you can think of it as a recipe. And so this is a recipe book. And so you can translate that onto a computer. And so you're writing instructions for the computer to follow, and then the computer does something with it. And so it can make websites, it can make programs, algorithms, and it can do so many things with just code. So the possibilities are basically limitless. Now we're going to learn it and dive into what is HTML and CSS. So these might seem like foreign words to you, but they are the languages that we use to code in HTML. These were foreign languages to me when I was first learning how to code. And so this is a little bit of a new concept, but we'll dive into what HTML and CSS provide distinctively since they're two programming languages. All right, so first we have what is HTML. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And this is the structure of a web page. And so this basically provides the skeleton of your entire website. And so that provides your header, it provides your links, your images. And so HTML is really just the backbone of your website. And so it kind of gives an outline of what your website will look like. However, when you want to style up your website, cascading style sheets have that ability. And so it's the style of the web page. And so it provides the visual, it provides the colors, it provides distinct attributes so you can customize your own website with CSS. And we'll have a chance to dive deeper into what HTML and CSS are. All right. Now, for our first section, we're going to dive into metadata. And so when you think of the words meta and when you think of the words data, they kind of go hand in hand here. So for meta, we think of something big, right? And when we think of the word data, we think of information. And so this is kind of just big information for our web page. And so metadata just provides information about our page. And so it goes into our head tags. And so you can see our head tags over here. And then you could also see it down here. So this is our opening tag for head, and this is our closing tag. And so a um, that provides all our metadata for our website. You can also see the words meta over here. And so that means that we're providing the computer metadata for our website. And so that will just go into our header tags up here and up here. So this is our opening and then closing. And why does it matter? It shows the title on like the tab of our website, and it also has a description that helps explain what the page does. And so, yeah. And so you can see title over here. And so the title could be my first website or you guys. And so that will pop up like at the tab. So whenever you're exploring websites and they have like the brand name on the tab, that's metadata in the making. And so that's the title tag over here. All right, we'll move on to the next concept. So we're going to dive into tags. So say you want to have hello world as a piece of text within your HTML file. And so if you want that to happen if you want the words hello world on your website, we're going to have to add one little thing. We're going to have to add our paragraph tags. And so to get our paragraph tags, we have to use P. And so this is our opening tag over here. And so it has a lesson sign, our P character, and then a greater than sign. And then inside of it, there's hello world. And then our closing tag also has the same lesson character, but to confirm that it is a closing tag, it has a slash. So that's how the computer knows to stop the paragraph. And then you have the P and then also the greater than sign. So when we want to add text to our website, we're going to use the paragraph tag. And so that would output hello world on our website. So if we ran this on a terminal, then you would see hello world on our website in just like the blank screen because of our paragraph tags. And so that just gives us a chance to add text to our website. Now here's a little bit deeper dive into tags. And so I just showed you how we can add it onto our text. And so this is how we actually enclose our text within it. However, here's a breakdown into what tags are. And so our tags, they start with our left angle bracket, like I said before, character, right angle bracket. And so this would be considered our opening tag. And then over here, we have our closing tag. So that's our lesson sign, a forward slash, our character, and then a right angle bracket. And so that would be our closing tag. And so so whenever we're initializing a paragraph within our HTML file, we need to make sure that we have our opening tag as well as our closing tags so that the computer knows when to start the paragraph and where to end it. And so there's a similar pattern here with other tags as well, since there's so many tags that exist in HTML. So we need to make sure that we have our opening and our closing. All right. Let's move on to paragraph. So I covered a little bit about it. So this is our paragraph tag. And so paragraph basically gives us a block of text, and it's great for description, stories, and our bios. And so I have a little bio over here. And so this is where I use the paragraph tag. So I have my opening tag with our lesson sign, P character, and our greater than sign. And then I put my text, which is hello world, my name is Emma. And then from there, I have my closing tag over here with my lesson sign, my forward slash, my P character, and my greater than sign. And so this would be hello world. This would output hello world. My name is Emma onto my website. And so this is me basically speaking computer language. And so if I give the computer this in an integrated development environment, which is where you code, then it would output this for hello world. Hello world, my name is Emma. So then I'm telling it to do that since it's following that instruction. All right, let's keep on going. So our next section is on headings. So this is super similar to what we covered with our paragraph tag. However, we just change what's in, what characters are in those tags. And so H1 is the biggest, but then H6 is the smallest. And so here are examples of what it looks like. And so you can use our headings for titles and sections here. And so here is an example of heading 1, heading 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then over here you see its translation onto the website. And so we know that heading 1 is the biggest, and then it goes down to the smallest, which is H6. And so you can use these as reference when you're coding your own website. So here we can use our paragraph tag to write a bio and such, and then we can use our header to actually add a title to our website. So that could be your name, that could be what you're pursuing, could be anything. And so really website development is what you desire it to be. And so you can create anything you would like with it. So yeah, that's a little bit about headings, and it's super similar to what we learned with the paragraphs. Now we're going to dive into lists. So lists are a little bit different, but slightly similar. So they follow a similar format with paragraph or with our paragraph and H1 and our heading tags, since they do have an opening and closing tag. However, here we need to add a UL, like a UL tag, and then also an LI tag. So I didn't show the the OL one, which is the unordered list, but we can just use the UL and LI since those are the ones that give you the most desired lists. So UL, that tag stands for unordered list, and so that will give you bullets with whatever you decide to put in between those brackets, and so um, that initializes the list. However, if we want to add a list item onto um our unordered list, then we have to add a list item here. So we need to use the li tag. So we use our opening tag and also our closing tag here. And so here we also use UL, our opening and closing over here. So this is where we establish that we want an unordered list, and then inside we put in what we want as the list values. And so we put list, let li here, over here, our opening and closing. And then when we decide to output it, this is our paragraph tag over here, and then here is our unordered list with its list items. So it has the bullets right there. And so if we decide to put this into our code, this is what we're going to get out of it. So yeah. So that's a little bit about lists and how we add them onto our website. Now let's dive into images. So this is more of the fun part. And so this is our first step into customizing our website. And so when we're using when we're adding images into your website, they use a little bit of a different format. And so here you can see our format, which is img src equals img.jpg. And so img image.jpg just stands for the image that's over here. And so that was the image file name. However, if we want to add an image onto our website, we have to follow this format with our lesson sign, and then we have to type in IMG and then SRC as our source. So this stands for image source. And then we set that equal to whatever image you'd like. So you can also copy paste the image address, and then it will also be shown onto your website. And so, um, yeah. And so, yeah, image, this is where you establish you want an image. SRC stands for the image is the source gives you the is equal to the image link. And so that's a little bit about how you can add images into your website. And so you would just have the chance to copy and paste your image address in there. And now we'll dive into links. So this is also a little fun customization that we can add. And so links also do follow a weirder, more odder format similar to that of images. And so they follow a similar format with a.href. And so href is equal to the link or the URL of whatever website that you're providing it. And then after that, you can close uh, that opening tag, and then you can add text inside of it. And so then that will be the text for our link. And so here we have an example over here. So if I have a paragraph and I say I'm a freshman at I have my opening tag with A for my link, and then I can type in href, and then I set it equal to Stanford's website. And so this is where I set it equal to a link, and then I close it off over here. So this is really important. And just to close off the opening tag for A, and then I can add Stanford University over here, and that will be the text that my users will see when they see the link. And so they'll have the chance to click on it, and then they'll be directed to stanford.edu. And then after that, you will have to use your closing tag with our lesson sign slash and then A. And then after that, you can close it off with our paragraph. So that's just a little bit about how links work. All right, now let's dive into colors. So this is how we can add colors into our website. So it's a little bit of the fun customization aspect that CSS provides. And so you're going to have to access a separate file for cascading style sheets, since we did the majority of our work with HTML. Or you could also add style, um, a little style section within your website. But for now, we can just worry about separating our HTML from our CSS since they are two different languages. And so now for CSS, if we want to modify like the style within our website, as I said before, you can add um, a style, the style tags within our header. And so you can add that, and then you can modify the different colors and the different backgrounds and text colors that you want to see on your website. And so this is a syntax for it. And so you have your selector first. And so that could be um like your eight that could be your eight that could be HTML. It could also be um it could be anything. It could be a specific link. It could be really anything. A paragraph, so a header. And so here you have your selector because you're selecting what you want to change. Then here you have your property, and then your property like over here, this is color. And so our property here that we want to change is our color. And then we use a colon, and then we set it equal to a value. And so here I set it equal to white. And so now over here we have background color. So this is my property. And then I have my value over here, which is cornflower blue. And then when I output my code, I get this, since my background will come out as blue, and then my text will come out as white. So that's just a little bit about how colors in HTML work. But we need to access our HTML property in order to change all of our text and all the background, like all the background color within our website. Okay, awesome. Now we're almost closing off here. So let's dive into careers in web development. And so there's so many distinct paths that you can take within web development, if this workshop interested you. And so one possible track you can take is with front-end development. And here you can build websites and build websites that users directly see. And so you'd mainly be responsible for how the style of it looks. And so you'll be mainly involved with CSS and working in just establishing um, what the users see when they first see the website. Now, on the opposite end, there's also back-end developers as well. And so this is mainly focused on the coding part of the website, more of the hard back-end. And so they're mainly involved with coding how the website works with different languages. And so front-end development will be mainly involved with HTML and CSS, but back-end will be mostly involved with JavaScript, which is a different language within web development. And then now with developers, they handle both the front and the back end. And so they be involved with both building the websites that users directly see, and also really in the hard coding aspect of websites. And so they're involved with both aspects of web development. And then after that, we also have web designers. So if you're interested, web designers are mainly involved with creating website look and feel. And so they're the ones who set the mood within websites. And then we also have UI UX designers. And so UI stands for user interface, and then UX stands for user experience. And so they are mainly focused with designing easy, enjoyable user experiences. And so they're mainly involved with accessibility and making sure that the users feel happy when they interact with the website. And so there's no bugs or errors on their end that can impede their user experience. And so user interface and user experience come hand in hand there. And so they're mainly involved with working with humans and developing their product there. And then finally, we have project managers. And so they're mainly involved with organizing teams, deadlines, and projects in relation to web development. And so they're mainly the leaders when establishing projects here. All right. Now that we have reached the end of our session today, so thank you so much for coming and learning a little bit about HTML and CSS. And I hope you enjoyed this session, and hopefully I'll get to see you guys next time. All right, bye. Have a great day.